Story 1. I just woke up one day and said to myself, I don't smoke. Every time I craved a cigarette, I repeated it like a mantra, fooling myself into believing I did not smoke. I quit 8 years ago. Story 2. Reading Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking really helped me. I wasn't sure it would when I started reading, but by the end, I was done with smoking for good. Story 3. My grandma stopped smoking when she got pneumonia. My mom stopped smoking when she had the flu and pneumonia. So I guess pneumonia worked wonders for my family. Story 4. You may dislike this answer. You need to stop smoking. If you are looking for an easy method, you are not ready to quit, and you will likely fail. Story 5. Talk to your doctor about options. They could prescribe bupropion, a medication that has been proven to lessen nicotine cravings. Story 6. Chantix changed my life. I tried everything and always went back to smoking. Side effects can be challenging, but the long-term benefits outweigh the short-term issues with the medication. Story 7. Think about the day people hear, I'm sorry, you have stage 4 lung cancer. You only have 90 days to live. For me, it was a stroke at 53 years old after 30 years of smoking. I had to learn how to walk again. I spoke as if my tongue was glued to the roof of my mouth, and I have no sense of hot or cold in my left arm. I lose my balance and my short-term memory is really bad. Smoking is just not worth it. You are literally spending your hard-earned money on something that can be the cause of what will end your existence. For my grandfather, it was throat cancer and a hole in his neck that he had to clean out with cotton swabs every day. He died 2 years after being diagnosed. The cancer returned and spread to his brain. Just quit. A search for lung cancer victims' photos might help you decide to stop. Story 8. I became concerned that I would lose my teeth, so I decided to stop smoking one day after my gums became inflamed and bled. I used nicotine patches for much longer than the recommended 1 or 2 weeks, wearing them for several months afterward. I didn't tell anyone I was quitting because I felt too much pressure. Story 9. I met a girl I was deeply in love with, and she disliked smoking. I considered my options. She is my wife now, and I do not smoke. Story 10. You just stop. That's it. Then you say no to the cravings until they go away. A couple of weeks later, you will realize that you quit. Story 11. The question is, how will you stop smoking? Will you have someone monitor you? Will you decide to overcome that urge? Will you not have enough money to buy more? Will you face a health problem as a result? I believe you can do it. If you are already asking the question, then I know you can succeed. Story 12. Don't quit. Hear me out. Quitting is hard, right? It's daunting to even think about. Never smoking again, but you can skip one, right? That's easy. Just skip one. You can do that. Don't worry about tomorrow or next week. Just skip the next one. Story 13. I am sharing my answer from a previous post. What worked for me were 2 things, and I have been smoke-free for over 20 years. First, I used a nicotine patch. This really helped with the physical cravings. I started with a 21 milligrams patch and used it for 3 to 4 weeks. After that, I dropped to a lower dosage patch for a few more weeks. I cut the 21 milligrams patch in half. After that, you were supposed to drop to another lower dosage, but I found I didn't need to, and at that point, I just stopped using it. My wife had an allergic skin reaction to it, so be aware that can happen to some people. Second, and what I feel is most important, you need to find something to do with your hands. That was the strangest part for me. I would be driving home from work and find myself bringing my hand to my mouth as if I was holding a cigarette. I felt I was missing something. At that point, I picked up the guitar again, and whenever I had downtime, I played it. You need to find something you enjoy doing to keep yourself busy. An instrument like I did, video games, or even building with Lego. I don't know what your hobbies are, so you would be better suited to answer that. Just find something. Best of luck. Story 14. Quit tonight. It's easier to quit after you've slept and haven't had nicotine for about 6 to 8 hours. Enjoy one last cigarette, vape, or drink tonight before bed. Then never again. Story 15. I read The Easy Way to Stop Smoking book. I went on a stag do a week after finishing the book. Surrounded by smokers and heavy drinking, I took a single puff on someone's cigarette and realized how unpleasant it felt. I don't know what the author wrote in that book, but it made me never want to touch a cigarette again. Story 16. I gradually switched to vaping with nicotine but still smoked cigarettes in between. It definitely made the house smell better. Eventually, I stopped smoking cigarettes and used only one vape, lowering the nicotine content gradually to no nicotine. Story 17. You'll quit when you're ready to. You will never stay quit if you really didn't want to. It's not easy. I have quit and jumped off the wagon after 10 years, then had to quit again. Both times it was because mentally I was ready to quit for myself, not anyone else. Some days I still miss smoking, even though it has been 2 years since my second time quitting. Even during my first 10 years, I would occasionally think, I could go for a drag right now, but then I remember how difficult it is to quit. It's not easy. Best of luck to you and anyone else going through it. The benefits of quitting are worth it, in my opinion. Story 18. About 30 years ago, a beautiful lady told me she wouldn't say yes unless I quit smoking. She expected me to continue, thinking that would make me back off. The challenge was accepted. We have been married for over 30 years now. Story 19. I created external accountability by calling a couple of people I did not want to disappoint and informing them that I had quit. I stopped doing the things I associated closely with smoking for a few years. I reminded myself regularly that going back to smoking would mean my parents would know I failed to quit after committing to them that I was quitting. Story 20. I have relapsed and still smoke. However, the patches were effective in reducing my desire to smoke. It was relatively easy to quit smoking while using the patches. I stopped using them because I thought they might not be healthy to wear constantly, and they only helped a little when it was time to remove them. A couple of months ago, I was unwell and took acetaminophen for relief. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but the combination made me hardly realize that I was quitting smoking. I was able to stop for a month, but later, I struggled with depression and gave in again. Story 21. Plan ahead. Obtain some nicotine patches. Take a Friday off. Smoke your last cigarette on Thursday night. Get up on Friday and apply a patch. Take it easy all weekend long, avoiding anything stressful and staying away from other people. Show up on Monday with 3 days already completed, and you will feel more at ease at work. The hardest part is getting off the patches, but that comes later. Also, part of your planning should include visiting your doctor. Inform them that you want to quit smoking and ask if there is anything they can prescribe to make the process easier. You might be able to obtain bupropion, which can be very helpful. Story 22. Consider how many people you know who smoke, and you will realize that it is both disgusting and normalized. Story 23. There was a University of California, Berkeley study a long time ago, though I am unsure if it was peer-reviewed, that showed a positive reduction in cravings for strong drugs such as cocaine after the use of lysergic acid diethylamide. I forget if it was a high dose or microdosing in that study, but has anyone had positive results using psychoactive substances like lysergic acid diethylamide or mushrooms to quit smoking? It is important to note that these psychoactive substances do not typically have addictive qualities, but there are dangers with all drugs. Please consult a doctor and seek expert advice before trying any new treatment, and consider refraining from trying this. I am asking because I read that study a while ago and was curious about it. Story 24. I was a vapor for about 2 years. I gradually reduced the nicotine content in the vape liquid until it reached 0. Once I hit 0, I continued vaping for about a week before stopping altogether. This process took me about a month and a half, but it may take others longer. Story 25. I got pregnant and don't really recommend it, but it helps. I also started surrounding myself with non-smokers. Story 26. You have to truly not want to smoke anymore. If you want to stop smoking, you will likely fail. I tried to quit numerous times and failed. Then one day I simply did not want to smoke anymore, and it was relatively easy. Story 27. My dad kept a pack of cigarettes in the freezer. He said that not having them helped. If he really needed one, he would take one out. Apparently, the freezer changed the taste, so it wasn't as good. Story 28. The Easy Way to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr. Find the audiobook. That's what worked for me. Story 29. I was a pack-a-day smoker for many years. I quit about 25 years ago using a nicotine patch and something to occupy my time. In my case, I bought an Xbox and nearly wore it out. Story 30. I do not smoke, but I have had friends who do. For them, it was the people they were around, usually workmates, who influenced their habits. One friend left his job and discovered that he no longer wanted to smoke because nobody else did. Story 31. I used Chantix. You take it and smoke for a week like you normally would. By the end of the week, I would be pulling into work and realize I hadn't smoked a cigarette. Felt like I just forgot to smoke. After that, it was about getting over the social cues I was used to, like starting my car and eating. Story 32. I used a plume device for the last 2 months. Today, I started using lozenges and vapes. I haven't smoked a cigarette since January, so fingers crossed. Story 33. You have to be ready. You have to want it. You have to really want it. You have to replace cigarettes with something else. I use floss picks. I used nicotine patches to replace nicotine. My first couple of days quitting were rough. Then my 8-year-old daughter said something to me that I repeated as a mantra. Dad, it's easy to quit smoking. Just don't buy them and you won't have any. So I focused on not buying them instead of not smoking them. It helped a lot. Smart girl. Story 34. Have someone give you an ultimatum. Either quit smoking or your relationship with them will end. Honestly, the first few days to 2 weeks are the hardest part. After that, it's less about physical cravings and more about breaking the habits, such as buying a pack in the morning on the way to work, smoking while driving or after a meal, and social smoking at work or with friends. Once you can eliminate or replace these habits, it becomes much easier. As hard as it may seem, that friend you always go outside with at work to smoke, you can't go out with them anymore, even just to stand there, at least not for a few months, because it will trigger you to smoke again. It's easier with support, so tell your friends so they don't offer you a cigarette. Truly is possible, regardless of how hard it seems. It's strange, but there comes a point when the smell will start to gross you out. Story 35. Cold turkey. I try not to think about it too much. It's good for my mood but bad for my lungs. I seek alternatives to regulate my mood, like matcha powder through the digestive tract. Story 36. I switched to hand-rolled cigarettes, which helped a lot. It made smoking a process, and I think the tobacco is less addictive. There are many great points in this discussion, but they all pale in comparison to being committed and truly wishing to be free of the addiction. Just keep trying and don't get discouraged. Also, try any and all of the techniques mentioned. Best of luck. It will be one of the best things you ever do for yourself. Story 37. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer after having my gallbladder perforate a year ago. After my gallbladder surgery, I quit completely. I still miss it, but now the cancer has affected the other kidney. I want to be careful and avoid doing anything that could cause more problems. Story 38. I realize that stopping is not the issue. I have stopped many times. The challenge is resisting the urge to start again. Story 39. If you are serious about quitting, keep trying. Took me multiple attempts, but I have not smoked in 5 years. Story 40. I was a pipe smoker. I have started and stopped about 3 times. During the last 2 times I quit, I became ill, and smoking while sick was quite miserable. I still craved it, and it was uncomfortable to just stop. However, it was easy to convince myself that the unease was solely related to being sick rather than to cravings. Story 41. Nicotine patches worked really well for me when quitting vaping. Now I can enjoy a cigarette every once in a while without any issues. Story 42. I was a smoker for over a decade. I switched to vaping when it first became popular, but after my grandfather needed open-heart surgery, I decided to quit cold turkey. It has been over a decade now. Story 43. My friend and his wife both quit smoking the day they found out she was pregnant. For some time, he knew exactly how many days it had been since he quit, but he never smoked again. Story 44. You have to want to, and then you have to just do it. Going cold turkey was the only method that worked for me, and having a supportive partner to hold me accountable helped. It was tough, but if you make it 6 weeks, you should be in a good place. provided you truly want to. I've heard that hypnosis can also be effective. It helped my mother's ex-boyfriend quit. Story 45. One day, I realized I was going to have a stroke like my dad did, and there was no way I wanted to put my kids through that. Story 46. I am currently 2.5 months off cigarettes. I still miss them a lot. I have a vape that helps, but I dislike using it. I plan to get rid of it once I run out of juice. There is no easy way to quit. The first few days are definitely the hardest, and it becomes moderately easier over time. My coworkers all quit at the same time, which made the process easier. With no one going out for smoke breaks, it doesn't weigh on my mind as much. Story 47. One day at a time. It may take multiple attempts, but with each one, you will improve and feel more regret for returning to it. Story 48. Trick your mind by telling yourself that you will smell unpleasant whenever you think about going outside for a smoke. Consider how much you'll smell when you walk back inside and how the odor will linger on your clothes. Story 49. I was prescribed Champix after finally deciding I needed help because I couldn't stop on my own. It's been 2.5 years, but I still miss it every now and then. Story 50. Stopping for extended periods before returning for emotional reasons, such as self-destruction in response to heartache, is relatively easy. The challenge lies in genuinely wanting to stop. I know the moment will arise again when I will say, I don't want this to be a part of my life anymore. Until then, there is little point in trying because I don't truly want to stop, even though I express a desire to quit smoking. Story 51. It took me 6 months to quit smoking. I smoked a high nicotine and tar king-size cigarette. I didn't reduce the amount I smoked, which was a pack a day, or quit anything else besides long drives while I was weaning myself off. I switched to a slightly lower nicotine and tar content for a month, then to a light cigarette for a month, extra light for a month, ultra light for a month, and then I just stopped. I made sure people knew my plan to help hold myself accountable. Story 52. Former smoker here. I stopped 5 times and found the urge to quit. It's not easy until you say, I'm done. Story 53. I was hospitalized for 8 days due to an abscess on my spine. After my release, I decided not to use substances again. It worked for me. Story 54. I have never quit. I just decided not to do it. I allow myself to enjoy the fact that I like smoking, but I choose not to so I don't have an inner battle with addiction. Occasionally, I will have a purely made cigar, and I don't feel like I am harming myself. Story 55. It seems you decide it's finally time to quit, then relapse and repeat until you become bored with the process. Story 56. One time I quit for months by only smoking joints. Another time I only smoked bongs. It's been years since I last smoked. Now, I vape instead, but very minimally. Story 57. I decided I was tired of wasting money. I went cold turkey and lost the urge after about a month. I will still smoke occasionally if I am around other smokers, but it's every few months instead of multiple times a day. Story 58. You just do it. It will be challenging and you take it 1 minute at a time. When you crave a cigarette, make yourself wait just 1 minute, then another. You will be emotional because you have been suppressing your feelings with each smoke. That's okay. But don't take it out on others. Just keep going 1 minute at a time. Then one day you'll realize you can smell flowers, rain, and food like you never have before, and it will be amazing. You may gain some weight because food tastes wonderful. That's fine. Take walks and enjoy the scents around you. It's good for you. You'll also realize that you smell good. And when people hug you, you will smell pleasant. You can walk longer and faster and manage stairs effortlessly. Just start. It will be tough initially, but it will become great. Story 59. I attended a support group at Kaiser and took the medication. I used a vape for a couple of months and then stopped. It's been 10 years now. Good luck. Story 60. I quit smoking cold turkey after I read that the psychological addiction to nicotine is broken in 72 hours. I took the jar I used as an ashtray, filled it with water, and threw it out because I knew that after a few hours I would be lighting the butts if I didn't destroy them. I searched all my hiding places and threw away 2 nice lighters. That was almost 10 years ago, and I haven't smoked since. Story 61. I found out I was pregnant, so I decided to make changes for my baby. I had previously struggled to quit smoking, but when I was pregnant, I was determined to stop. I used to smoke cigarettes and marijuana, and it was tough to give them up. I also eliminated caffeine from my diet and was drinking 8 energy drinks a day, which made it even more challenging. As soon as I gave birth, I returned to drinking energy drinks but managed to stay away from smoking and marijuana. Story 62. I smoked Camel Straights, non-filtered, for almost 30 years. I quit twice unsuccessfully, once for a full year and once for 6 months. Each time I fell off the wagon, I was under a lot of stress with cigarettes within reach and I succumbed. 15 years ago, I tried again, but I changed my tactic. I made sure I had cigarettes within reach. I still have my last pack from 15 years ago. It's old and faded, but still sealed and accessible if I want a really old cigarette. I also realized my initial mistake. I had quit but kept in the back of my mind that if there was a massive apocalyptic event, I might smoke another one, but only if it was really bad. However, being poor and relying on an old car to make it to a difficult job in the middle of winter made it inevitable. When everything fell apart, the temptation was right there, offering 5 minutes of stress relief but also another lifetime of addiction. In addition to keeping a pack around, even though I quit, I realized I had to believe this was done 100% no matter what. Even if the world was ending, I remembered the words of Yoda. There is no try. There is only do and do not. And I knew I was a grown man and should be able to follow through with ending this once and for all. As mentioned above, I still have that old pack of cigarettes, but I know I'm never going back to it because I'm in charge of what I do and don't do. I'm not trying. I am doing. If I go crawling back, I'll just always be a victim of addiction, like the cigarette corporations want me to be. Story 63. It's going to be different for everyone, but here is what helped me in college. Honestly, it was an impulse purchase thing for me. It was hard for me to go somewhere and not buy a pack of cigarettes. So instead of stopping at a gas station on my way home, I would stop at places that didn't sell cigarettes. A restaurant, bakery, or coffee shop. Smoothie King was a frequent choice. I still got to make my impulse buy, but instead of buying a pack of cigarettes, I was getting something much healthier. Is a donut healthy? Probably not, but it's better than a pack of cigarettes and cheaper too. Eventually, I kind of forgot about smoking and didn't even want to spend the money on it anymore. Best of luck. Do it for your health. The feeling of freedom and relief after you've finally quit smoking is really something else. You'll get there. Story 64. I used a vape for about 1 month with very low strength nicotine and then reduced to 0 nicotine for another 2 to 3 weeks. The withdrawal cravings were much easier to manage as I gradually decreased the nicotine level. Eventually, it became a matter of acknowledging and letting go of the habit. I smoked heavily for 25 years and had tried everything before this. I feel amazing now. Story 65. I have successfully completed 15 years as a non-smoker. I chewed nicotine gum for a year, and on the anniversary of quitting, I stopped using the gum. It was very challenging, but I am proud to say I am no longer a smoker. Story 66. My tips are: find a reason. For me, it was buying a new car and not wanting to tarnish it with smells or ash burns. Don't tell anyone. It will eventually come up in conversation and make it that much harder. You will receive questions asking how difficult it is. Be mentally prepared. You may experience some side effects. I gained about 20 pounds in that first year and went through serious depression that almost cost me my then girlfriend, now wife. Just quit. If you need to use patches, gum, or pills, that's fine, but don't try to wean off of cigarettes themselves. Story 67. I bought a fresh new pack ready to begin my workday with a coffee, a cigarette, and a friend on a sunny spring day in 2016. When we sat down in the coffee shop and the barista brought the coffee, I removed the packaging, opened the pack, pulled out the shiny paper tab, and looked at the filters. Something felt strange. I placed the opened pack down on the table and kept staring at it for the next 20 minutes. My friend, who was strongly against cigarettes, became upset and said, "I will light one up if you don't decide." I closed the lid, stored the pack in my bag, and never lit one again after that. I believe I still have that pack with a date somewhere in the house. It's easy to say, just stop smoking, but ultimately, that's all there is to it. Some of us find it easier than others, but you have to consider the consequences and the reasons why you started smoking in the first place. I started in high school because I liked the smell and the taste, not because of the people around me or the cool factor. No one knew for over a year that I smoked until one day in school when I asked for a lighter. Everyone was in shock. Over the years, the cigarettes started smelling worse, the taste deteriorated, the aftertaste became horrible, until one day I turned the page. It wasn't a yellowish-brown page, but a clear white page. My eyes opened, my mind recalibrated, and I left it all behind me. Story 68. I went into respiratory distress from COVID. After 15 days, 7 of which I have no memory, the doctor said that if I smoke a cigarette, I will die. Exaggeration, sure, but sufficient. Story 69. Unfortunately, I ended up starting again after a couple of years smoke-free. It didn't help that, at the time, a family member was still smoking despite my repeated efforts to encourage them to quit. Story 70. I was diagnosed with a growth in my throat, which turned out to be a tonsil remnant that had grown back. This was a significant wake-up call for me. I experienced a stressful few days waiting for the results. I went cold turkey 4 years ago. Story 71. Depending on how long you have been smoking and how much you smoke, giving up nicotine can cause a significant chemical imbalance in the body. You can expect major mood swings, anxiety, and cravings. I smoke about 10 rolled cigarettes a day, and even though I know it causes cancer and is detrimental to my health, I enjoy it. Story 72. I quit after trying to stop many times. I was a heavy smoker and absolutely loved it. I found myself wanting to smoke more when I was hungover, and it was the first thing I did when I woke up. However, I realized it was an addiction and not sustainable. Despite how severe my addiction was and all the times I tried and failed, I never gave up. One day, I finally succeeded. I have had some lapses since then where I attempted to smoke when I was out drinking, but I now find it repulsive. I couldn't even get through one. Now, I don't even attempt to smoke because I know it's over for me and it no longer provides the same satisfaction it once did. Story 73. I quit cannabis after I developed hyperemesis syndrome. It was very painful, but I realized I had abused it for too long. I haven't smoked in 1 month. Story 74. You just need to accept it and take control of nicotine instead of letting it control you. It's tough and unpleasant, but you'll emerge on the other side healthier because of it. Story 75. I got so drunk that I had a 2-day hangover and didn't get out of bed. On the 3rd day, I realized I hadn't smoked in 2 days and decided to stick with it. Story 76. I used nicotine gum for 2 years. The hardest part of quitting smoking is the habit itself. Managing nicotine withdrawals is relatively easier. Story 77. I smoked a pack a day but stopped 4 years ago. Since smoking is a habit, I replaced that habit and decided to give myself 2 years to quit. I lowered my smoking by 1 cigarette each month. I used to smoke 20 cigarettes a day. After 1 month, I smoked 19. After another month, I smoked 18, and so on. Because you change your habit very slowly, your body gets used to less nicotine daily. This approach worked well for me, and I recommended it to some friends who had trouble quitting, and it worked for them too. Change the habit, take your time. Don't try to quit in 1 day. Apologies for my poor English. Story 78. By failing a lot, I told myself I was going to quit. I planned to smoke my last cigarette, not buy a new pack, and go a day or 2 without smoking. Then I would get frustrated at work and cave, buying a new pack on my way home. I followed this pattern for a few weeks before deciding to cut out the irritant that was causing my smoking, particularly one person at work. So I took a vacation and stuck it out. The day I returned to work, I got frustrated again and bought a pack on my way home. I lit a cigarette, took a drag, and it was the most disgusting thing I had ever tasted. I took another drag to see if I had imagined it. I hadn't. I put it out, threw away the rest, and haven't touched a cigarette in almost 6 years. Story 79. With decreasing levels of nicotine until 0 milligrams, I once forgot my vaping device at home and never picked it up again. It has been 7 years since my last cigarette and 5 years since my last vape. Story 80. I was consuming over 2 packs of cigarettes a day as a truck driver, and nothing helped. I disliked vaping. However, I ended up liking nicotine pouches because they are very affordable. One day, I decided to try quitting cold turkey from the pouches, and it was much easier than I expected. When things get tough, remind yourself that the only thing you have to do is nothing. Embrace your lazy side, and you can quit many habits. Story 81. If you can't quit cold turkey, try Chantix. It was a miraculous solution for me. I was smoking an average of a pack a day for 20 years. I continued smoking while taking the medication for 30 days and then quit cold turkey. I never looked back. Granted, the medication is expensive, whether you have insurance or not, costing around $500 for 30 days. But it worked when every other option didn't. Story 82. I wanted to quit. You have to truly want to stop. Deep down, it becomes easy to be turned off by the look and smell. Story 83. I moved to a new country, and for some reason, it helped me. I was living with my mom for a while. She didn't mind, but I promised I'd quit, and I did. Story 84. Not being sarcastic, but please stop buying cigarettes. I stopped 4 months ago, and I still think about them constantly. I simply refuse to purchase them and avoid going into convenience stores. I remind myself that I am no longer a smoker. Good luck. Quitting is difficult, but so is lung disease. Story 85. What I did was, if I made it through the day without smoking, I put what I would have spent on cigarettes that day into a jar. I used to smoke a pack a day. Story 86. First, make the decision. If you can't stop immediately, start reducing the amount weekly until you can quit completely. Story 87. I just started vaping and went from 20 milligrams of nicotine to working my way down. Every time I buy more, I am currently on 3 milligrams and plan to switch to 0 milligrams of nicotine soon. Hopefully, when I do that, it will be easier to stop completely. Story 88. I suggest finding a friend who also wants to quit smoking. Make a bet with that friend that both of you will quit, and if one of you smokes, they must do something humiliating as punishment. Ensure the consequence is significant enough to discourage you from giving in. After 3 weeks, you'll be repulsed by the smell of cigarettes and smokers, making it easier to continue. Those 3 weeks will be challenging, but having a friend to support you can make a difference. Story 89. I went to my first urologist appointment, which is recommended for men when they turn 40. We talked, and he mentioned that many of his patients are men over 40 who did not quit smoking and end up needing to use a catheter due to smoking-related bladder issues or even worse, conditions like bowel cancer. Until that point, I had only considered the dangers of smoking to be related to lung problems and overlooked the many other serious health issues that can arise. That conversation scared me so much that I finished my last pack of cigarettes and quit afterward. Story 90. In my experience, it's a matter of motivation. More specifically, finding your motivation and using it as a reminder when cravings hit is crucial. I originally quit for a girl who didn't want to date a smoker. While that itself is not a great reason, as you should do it for yourself, not others, it led me to find my real motivation. I truly hated the idea of being controlled by a substance. It was the realization of just how dependent I was on tobacco to feel normal. That realization led me to resent tobacco, both as a product and as an industry. I can't stand the idea that I'm not in control of my own health and life, and that thought has prevented me from smoking for almost 8 years. It may not be much, but I hope it helps you in some small way. Story 91. My dad quit smoking when I was around 6 because I kept telling him, "I don't want you to die." I basically guilt him into stopping, but he was also eating about 30 Jolly Ranchers a day, which helped. Story 92. I finished my last cigarette on a Tuesday night around 9 p.m. The next morning, I decided that I would skip going to the store for cigarettes. The first couple of days were rough, but it was a matter of mind over matter. I wish I had better advice or a miracle method, but it just takes a strong desire not to smoke more than the desire to smoke, along with self-control. Story 93. I smoked marijuana for 10 years, so it was not nicotine. I had to change my mindset and research why it is harmful. I went through the cognitive dissonance of knowing it was bad and doing it anyway. Eventually, I realized this is so harmful that I could not continue. Once I made the final decision that it was truly bad for me, I was able to stop and never go back. Story 94. You cannot change nicotine. You can only change how badly you want it. I had been using patches instead of vaping for about 2 months until one day I decided I was tired of all the addiction and tailoring to it. I chose to grit my teeth and quit, knowing the only other option was cancer or death. It was difficult yet easy, simply because I knew I didn't want it anymore. Then you just have to find ways to deal with the anxiety. Story 95. Every time I have cravings, I watch the same video showing how smoking affects the body and health. This has helped me for 9 months now. Story 96. I eliminated triggers such as coffee in the morning and alcohol. I established new routines like exercising. It requires a willingness at first, and you need to make an effort every day. Eventually, you begin to forget about it. Story 97. Here's an answer that won't help. Start by vaping frequently and work your way down to low nicotine strength, but still buy a pack occasionally. Then, get sent to work from home during the pandemic. At this point, you may quit buying packs because you can vape at home as much as you want. Your next step is to vape so much that you could develop serious respiratory issues. You may find yourself getting short of breath while sitting on the couch. Recognize this as a turning point and start using nicotine gum. Since you were previously vaping low nicotine juice, even the lowest dosage of gum will feel quite strong and could cause dizziness and nausea if you're not careful. Eventually, you may decide that you're not gaining anything from the buzz and quit buying the gum. It's as simple as that. Story 98. As mentioned earlier, you need to mentally decide that you are a non-smoker. You must genuinely not want to smoke anymore. Story 99. It's a habit you have trained yourself to adopt, similar to people who say, or like to fill in pauses in sentences. If you focus hard enough, you can eventually break the habit, but temptation will always be there, ready to pull you back. Your mental strength determines your success. Story 100. Usually it is emphysema. The doctor will say, stop smoking, or you will die before your youngest graduates high school. At least that's what they told my dad. Emphysema and a collapsed lung at 49, but he did stop and saw me graduate barely. Story 101. I applied the patch, which kept me on track for most of the day. I used nicotine gum for when cravings spiked. It worked for me. I have not used cigarettes, vapes, or nicotine since November 2021. Story 102. The biggest realization for me was that I always wanted the next cigarette. I rewarded myself frequently with a smoke, so I decided to skip it. You will still crave one afterward, but I focused on mind over matter. No matter the situation, the desire for the next cigarette persists. Eventually, it becomes less frequent, and I realized I am now saving $7,000 a year with no cravings. Story 103. In all honesty, I quit smoking 2 weeks ago, and it was just about choosing the day I would start. I kept postponing it until one day I woke up and said to myself, today is the day. After that, every time I thought about going for a smoke, I would tell myself, I don't smoke. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.